This is our venue now. Get out. Those were the first words my brother-in-law, Tyler, screamed at me, his finger hovering just inches from my face. I stood frozen in the center of my living room, a space I had designed specifically for absolute silence, watching it turn into a chaotic circus. On my custom Italian sofa, my sister Chloe sat with her legs crossed, swirling a glass of my vintage wine, laughing as if my shock was the punchline to a joke she had written. My sanctuary, my glass-walled fortress on Lake Tahoe, had been breached. They were not just visiting. They were occupying. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I would love to know who is part of our community. To understand why I did not scream back, why I did not immediately call the police or throw a vase, you have to understand what this house meant to me. It was not just wood and glass. It was my dignity. Just 3 hours earlier, I was driving up the winding mountain roads, my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my heart rate. I had just finished a 90-hour work week. For the past 10 years, I have been an architect in the city, living a life that looked glamorous on paper but felt like a prison cell in reality. I slept under drafting tables. I ate dinner out of vending machines. I sacrificed my 20s to the gods of steel and concrete. Every dollar I earned went into a specific fund, the Freedom Fund. And this house was the result. It was a modern estate overlooking the water, designed with floor-to-ceiling windows that let the light in but kept the noise out. It cost $1.5 million, but the real price was my nervous system. It was supposed to be the one place on earth where nobody needed anything from me. But as I pulled into the private driveway, that dream shattered. I saw the gate was open. I saw a large black SUV parked haphazardly on my lawn, crushing the landscaping I had just paid thousands to install. I walked to the front door, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. It was unlocked. And then I heard it, the shrill laughter of my sister, Chloe, the booming, arrogant voice of her husband, Tyler. I felt the blood drain from my face. My fingertips went cold. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, the sound of my heels clicking against the polished concrete floor. The noise in the room died instantly. Tyler, who had been pacing around like he owned the place, spun around. Chloe looked up from her wine, her eyes wide but not apologetic. "Alyssa," she said, smiling that toxic, sweet smile she used when she wanted money. "You are early." I looked around. My throw pillows were on the floor. There were muddy footprints on the rug. The air smelled like cheap cologne and entitlement. For years, I had been the family bank. I was the responsible one, the successful one, the one who didn't have children and therefore, in my mother's eyes, had no real expenses. I paid for Chloe's college tuition, $18,000 a year for a degree she never used. I paid off Tyler's credit card debt when his third startup failed. I paid their rent when they got evicted. I always told myself I was doing it out of love. I told myself that this is what family does. We help each other. But standing there in my violated sanctuary, staring at the people who had broken into my home, I had a realization that hit me harder than any invoice. I had been suffering from a delusion. It is a concept called the toxic charity fallacy. I wasn't helping them. I was participating in a cycle of pathological altruism. I thought that if I just gave enough, if I just solved enough of their problems, I could buy peace. I thought my generosity was a bridge to a better relationship. But it wasn't a bridge. It was a ransom payment. I wasn't giving them money because I loved them. I was giving them money because I was terrified of my mother's disappointment. I was terrified of the guilt trips. I was terrified of the chaos they brought into my life, and I was willing to pay any price to keep that chaos at bay. I had turned my own success into a weapon they used against me. I was the enabler, the peacekeeper, the architect of my own exploitation. But the thing about paying ransom is that the kidnappers never actually let you go. They just come back for more. And looking at Tyler's red, angry face and Chloe's smug, wine-stained lips, I realized the payments stopped today. I wasn't going to buy peace anymore. I was going to take it. I walked further into the room, ignoring the mud on my rug and the open bottle of wine. I looked directly at Tyler. "Explain this."
"Now."
Tyler puffed out his chest, adjusting his blazer as if he were about to pitch a startup to a room full of venture capitalists, rather than explaining why he had broken into his sister-in-law's home. "We are launching a business, Alyssa," he said, his voice booming with unearned confidence. "We saw an opportunity. This place? It is wasted on just you. It is a prime location for a high-end experience. So we organized a luxury wellness retreat." He gestured around the room as if he had built it himself. "We have 10 clients arriving in 2 hours. They paid $4,500 a head for the weekend package. That is $45,000, Alyssa. Pure profit. We are going to use it to clear my business loans, and then we cut you in for a percentage. It is passive income. You should be thanking us." I stared at him. He wasn't just trespassing. He was trafficking my home. He had sold tickets to my sanctuary to strangers. "You listed my house as a venue?" I asked, my voice low. "Without asking me?" Chloe rolled her eyes, setting her wine glass down on a stack of my architectural journals. "Oh, stop being so dramatic," she said. "We didn't ask because we knew you would say no. You are always so uptight about your space. But we are family." She stood up and walked toward me, her expression shifting from annoyance to a patronizing kind of pity. "Alyssa, look at this place. It is huge. You are one person. It is selfish to keep all of this to yourself when we are struggling. Your success belongs to the family brand. Your clout is our clout. When you win, we win. We are just leveraging assets." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see my annoying little sister. I saw a pathology. There is a concept in psychology called the narcissist's shared reality. It explains why people like Chloe and Tyler don't feel guilt when they steal from you. It is because, in their minds, they aren't stealing. They genuinely do not see you as a separate person with your own rights, your own property, or your own needs. To them, you are not an individual. You are an extension of themselves. I was not a sister to Chloe. I was an appliance. I was a resource to be harvested like a crop. When a farmer harvests wheat, he doesn't ask the wheat for permission. He just takes it because it belongs to him. That is how Chloe saw me. My house, my money, my career, my peace of mind. She believed she owned all of it simply because she existed. She wasn't lying to me. She was operating in a delusion where my boundaries were a personal insult to her, because how dare my right arm tell the brain it cannot use it? This realization didn't make me angry. It made me cold. It killed the last flickering ember of guilt I had about what I was about to do. You cannot reason with a parasite. You cannot negotiate with someone who thinks they own your blood. You can only remove them. I took a step back, creating physical distance between us. "You charged people money to stay here," I said, my voice flat. "You took deposits?" Tyler smirked, thinking he had won, thinking I was moving into the negotiation phase.
"Full payment up front," he said.
"The money is already in my account. The guests are expecting a 5-star experience. Catered meals, meditation sessions, the works. If you ruin this, Alyssa, you ruin us. You ruin the family. These are important people. You owe us this." "I owe you nothing," I said. The smirk dropped from his face. He took a step toward me, his size suddenly becoming a threat rather than a posture. "You listen to me," he growled. "This is happening. We have spent the money. We cannot refund them. If you try to kick us out, I will make your life a living hell. I will tell Mom you sabotaged us. I will tell everyone you are a jealous, bitter spinster who hates her own family." Chloe nodded, crossing her arms. "We are doing this, Alyssa. Go stay at a hotel for the weekend. We will clean up when we are done. Just be a good sister for once." I looked at the clock on the wall. My guests were arriving soon, too. But they weren't coming for meditation. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "I am calling the police," I said. Tyler moved faster than I expected. Before I could unlock the screen, he lunged forward and snatched the phone from my hand. "No, you do not," he snarled. "You are not calling anyone." He shoved the phone into his own pocket and stepped into my personal space. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered, and he knew how to use his size to intimidate. It was a tactic he had used on landlords, loan officers, and evidently my sister. Now he was using it on me. "You listen to me, Alyssa, he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. The first car is 10 minutes away. These people paid premium rates for a seamless experience. If they see police cars, if they see a hysterical woman screaming about property rights, I am ruined. Do you understand? I am financially dead. Chloe stepped up beside him, putting a hand on his arm, not to stop him, but to present a united front. Just let us have this weekend, she pleaded, though her eyes were cold. Just go back to the city. We will cut you a check on Monday. We will pay for a cleaning crew. No one has to know. You owe us this, Alyssa. After everything Mom did for you, this is the least you can do. I looked at them. Tyler, sweating with desperation and aggression. Chloe, manipulating reality to fit her needs. In that moment, my fear evaporated. It was replaced by a state of mind I call architect mode. When you design a skyscraper, you do not get emotional about wind shear or gravity. You do not beg the materials to hold. You calculate the load. You identify the stress points. And if a structure is unsound, you do not patch it. You condemn it. I stopped shaking. I straightened my spine. I looked at Tyler not as a threat, but as a structural failure. You think I came here to negotiate, I said, my voice calm, almost bored. You think I drove 3 hours to have a family meeting. I walked past him, moving toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the long, winding driveway. I didn't come here to save you, Tyler. I didn't come here to argue with you. I turned back to face them. The sun was hitting the glass, casting long, sharp shadows across the room. I came here to supervise the demolition. Tyler frowned, confusion breaking through his aggression. What are you talking about? I pointed out the window. I didn't come alone. Tyler and Chloe turned. Down at the gate, a large black SUV was pulling in. It wasn't a guest. It wasn't a catering van. It was a vehicle with tinted windows and government plates. Tyler's face went pale. Are those the clients? He asked, his voice wavering. He checked his watch. They are early. He smoothed his hair, his entire demeanor shifting instantly from thug to host. He turned to me, panic in his eyes. Alyssa, please. Hide in the bedroom. Just stay out of sight. We can split the money 60-40. Just don't ruin this. I didn't move. I watched as the SUV came to a stop in front of the house. The doors opened. 4 people stepped out. The first was Christopher, my lawyer. He was wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than Tyler's car, and he held a leather briefcase like a weapon. Behind him were 2 men who were clearly private investigators, holding cameras. And the 4th person was a process server. Tyler walked to the front door, putting on his best fake smile, prepared to greet wealthy tech executives looking for a wellness retreat. He swung the door open. Welcome. Welcome to the sanctuary. He boomed. I am Tyler, your host. Christopher didn't smile. He didn't shake Tyler's hand. He simply stepped past him into the foyer, followed by his team. Tyler Reed? Christopher asked. Yes. Tyler said, his smile faltering. Christopher signaled the process server, who stepped forward and thrust a thick stack of documents into Tyler's chest.
You are served, Christopher said.
Chloe rushed forward.
Who are you?
Where are the guests? There are no guests, Chloe, I said from the living room. I walked over to stand next to Christopher. These are witnesses. Chloe looked at me, then at Christopher, then at the cameras pointing at her. Her face twisted in confusion and rage. How did you know? She screamed. How did you know we were here? Mom told us you were in Europe. She said the house was empty for 2 weeks. I looked at Christopher. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a digital recorder. He placed it on the entry table and pressed play. The voice that filled the room was unmistakable. It was my mother, Lisa, but she didn't sound like the passive, anxious peacekeeper I had known my whole life. She sounded tired. She sounded resolved. Christopher, this is Lisa, the recording played. They're doing it. Tyler stole the gate code from my notebook. They're planning to list the house for a retreat this weekend. They think I don't know, but I heard them on the phone. I told them Alyssa was in Europe to buy time, so they would feel safe enough to go there. Please do whatever you have to do. I can't protect them anymore. I won't. The silence that followed was heavier than the mountains outside. Chloe stared at the recorder, as if it were a bomb. "Mom?" she whispered. "Mom did this?" "She didn't do it to you, Chloe," I said. "She did it for herself. She finally realized that protecting you was killing her." Tyler dropped the papers. They scattered across the floor. Cease and desist orders, eviction notices, and a civil lawsuit for damages. "This is a mistake," Tyler stammered, backing away from the camera. We were just leaving." "No, you aren't," Christopher said, blocking the exit. He pulled a separate document from his jacket pocket. "Because this isn't just a civil dispute anymore. You took deposits. You wired $45,000 across state lines for a service you cannot provide, on a property you do not own." Christopher smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It was the smile of a shark in bloody water. "That is wire fraud, Tyler. And since you broke the digital lock on the back door, it is also commercial burglary." I looked at my sister and her husband. They weren't family anymore. They were defendants. "This isn't fair," Chloe shrieked, her voice cracking. She looked around the room, her eyes darting from the cameras to the lawyer, realizing her reality was collapsing. She did what she always did when she felt cornered. She tried to control the narrative. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking, and opened Instagram. "You want a show?" she hissed at me. "I will give you a show. I have 50,000 followers, Alyssa. By the time I am done with you, you won't be able to get a job designing a doghouse." She hit the go live button. She held the phone up, finding her light, her face instantly transforming into a mask of tearful victimhood. "Guys, please, I need help," she sobbed into the screen, the tears coming instantly. "My sister, she is crazy. We planned this beautiful retreat, and she just broke in with these men. She is throwing us out. She is physically threatening me." I watched the viewer count tick up on her screen. Hundreds of people tuning in for the drama. Tyler stood behind her, trying to look like a protective husband rather than a felon. "She is jealous," Chloe cried. "She has always hated that I am happy. Please, someone call the police." Christopher moved to stop her, but I held up a hand. "Let her," I said. I walked over to Chloe. I didn't try to take the phone. I didn't scream. I simply stepped into the frame, standing right over her shoulder. Chloe flinched, turning the camera to catch my reaction, expecting me to look unhinged. Instead, I looked directly into the lens. I held up the document Christopher had just served Tyler. The header was clearly visible, notice of intent to indict, wire fraud and commercial trespassing. Next to it, I held up the property deed with my name on it. "Hi everyone," I said, my voice calm and leveled. "I am Alyssa. I am the owner of this house. Chloe is currently soliciting money for a wellness retreat on a property she does not own, using funds she stole from investors." I pointed to Tyler. "That man took $45,000 in deposits for a service he cannot provide. This isn't a family dispute. This is a documented crime scene. And you are all watching them confess." I looked down at Chloe. "Keep filming, Chloe. The prosecutor will love this footage." Chloe looked at her screen. The comments were scrolling fast, but they weren't the hearts and support she expected. "Wait, isn't that the architect from the city? Wire fraud? Girl, get a lawyer. Scammer." The validation she lived for turned into venom in real time. Her followers weren't fans. They were a mob, and I had just pointed them in the right direction. Chloe stared at the screen, her face draining of color. She realized she hadn't just exposed me. She had exposed herself to a gallery of thousands. She ended the stream with a trembling finger. The phone clattered to the floor. "It is over," Christopher said. He gestured to the door. "You have 5 minutes to vacate the premises before the actual police arrive to enforce the trespassing statutes. And Tyler, do not leave the state. You will be hearing from the district attorney." Tyler didn't argue. He didn't threaten. He grabbed his blazer and ran for the door, not even waiting for his wife. Chloe scrambled up, grabbing her purse, looking at me one last time with eyes full of pure, unadulterated hatred.
"You are dead to us," she spat.
I looked at her, standing in the mud she had tracked into my sanctuary.
"I know," I said. "I finally am."
She fled. The black SUV followed them down the driveway to ensure they left the property. Christopher stayed behind for a moment, organizing the paperwork on the table. "We will file the motions in the morning," he said. "It will be messy for a few months, but the evidence is irrefutable. You won." I nodded. "Thank you, Christopher." He left, closing the door softly behind him. The silence returned, but it felt different now. I walked over to the control panel on the wall and engaged the new security protocol. The electronic lock slid into place with a heavy, reassuring thud. The blinds lowered automatically. The house sealed itself. I walked to the window and looked out at the lake. The water was still, a sheet of dark glass reflecting the mountains. I stood there for a long time, waiting for the triumph to hit me. I waited for the rush of victory, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt a heavy, quiet grief. There is a concept I call the empty fortress paradox. We spend so much time building walls to protect ourselves. We work hard to afford the locks, the gates, the boundaries. We fight tooth and nail to keep the toxicity out. And when we finally succeed, when the drawbridge is up and the enemy is gone, we look around and realize that our fortress is safe, but it is also empty. It is a specific kind of sorrow to realize that your peace came at the cost of your family. It is a tragedy that the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones you needed protection from. I had my house. I had my money. I had my dignity. But I didn't have a sister anymore.
I didn't have a brother-in-law.
I had defendants. I sat down on the floor, in the center of the empty room. I poured a glass of wine, my wine, which they hadn't finished. It was expensive peace. It cost me everything I thought I was supposed to value. But as I watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting the room in twilight, I took a sip. It tasted like freedom. If you have ever had to build a fortress to protect your peace, hit that share button. Let's remind the world that boundaries aren't punishments, they are protection.